The curses of tormented souls. One of the most famous curses of tormented souls is the curse of Alexander Campbell. We go to Pennsylvania and the moment of the execution of Alexander Campbell, specifically 150 years ago. As the sun sets on Saturday inside the Pennsylvania State Prison, the execution room was being prepared for the execution of retribution in 4 people. They were accused of killing a man and his wife for robbery. 3 of them were completely resigned to their fate and pleaded guilty. They were quietly moving to carry out their death sentence. The 4th person was Alexander Campbell. He refused to come out of the cell and kept begging and swearing that he was innocent and no one was killed. Despite all his pleas and attempts to deny the charges, the court eventually sentenced him to death. He was dragged to carry out his death sentence. He kept shouting that he didn't want to die and that he was innocent. And when they put a noose around his neck, he did a very strange thing. He hit the wall hard with his hand and printed his handprint on it, crushing that he was innocent and no one was killed. He said that this fingerprint would still exist as proof of his innocence, and then the death sentence was carried out. It's a wonder Campbell's fingerprint was still on the wall. The prison administration tried to remove it, but it was coming back again. Something terrifying. So much so that the prison administration demolished the wall and built a new one, but the print appeared again. 150 years later, Campbell's footprint remains on the wall as proof of his innocence. The Pennsylvania State Legislature passed a resolution in 2005 deeming Campbell's execution unconstitutional and unjust. In 1950, at a girls' boarding school in England, and in one of the girls' residential rooms, there were a group of girls gathered in Emily's room. One of the girls made a hot drink and set the stove on fire, but hit the stove. Emily caught fire and ran out of the driveway between rooms. She was burning and screaming for someone to save her, but as if they were paralyzed, no one could save her because of their fear of approaching her. Emily was taken to Burns Hospital but died 2 days later from severe burns. After this incident, the girls heard Emily's cries. A new girl came to the student's residence after this accident, and she didn't know anything. She lived in the same role as this incident. They found her on an unconscious day in her room bathroom. When she passed, she said, "I was in the bathroom and found the curtain in the shape of a girl. When I opened, I saw a girl burning him and screamed, and then he closed the light of the bathroom." Another girl in the same residence says, "I woke up to someone's voice opening the door to my room. When I opened my eyes, I saw Emily, and her shape was grotesque and completely burned, and some parts of her flesh are falling." It didn't end when another girl said she was asleep and heard someone open her room door. He moves the door handle violently, and when I woke up, opened the door and looked at the corridor between the rooms. I found burns on the walls right and left. This girl entered her room and closed the door quickly because of her fear. She called the security, and when they came, they found Emily's face-like etched inscription on the wall. The school administration then decided to change the room door due to the difficulty of removing this inscription at this time. But the inscription appeared again on the new door. They kept changing the door, and every time the inscription appeared again, Emily's face became a curse for the door. And I screamed at her so far. In 2010, in Kazakhstan, in the village of Kalaki, there was an accident that didn't take sufficient care. 8 people who fell asleep on the ground without prejudices, and a person falls victim to a state of sudden sleep, and when someone comes to save him, he wakes up and does simple things. Then he goes back to sleep, and if they leave him asleep, he can't wake up again. In 2013, the phenomenon spread, and the number of people sleeping increased by more than 200. Even animals were injured too. Sleeping periods lasted 2 or 3 days. One day, the number of sleepers was 100 at the same time, and to the extent that some of them have been asleep 6 days in a deep and very quiet sleep. Accidents and sleep curse spread, and people became saying about the village, "It's the village of damn sleep." But strangely, This curse didn't just hit the villagers. It's any stranger entering the village who gets this dam, like the German who was on a visit there and got this curse. She continued with him until he returned to his city. He slept sometime for minutes and other times for days. He had a year-long sleep shift when he woke up. He said that in this period he was leaving his body and entering the body of another person from 3906 years old. He said in exact detail what had happened in the future. This subject went to the specialists and they say that the person is unable to talk. And if you wake him up, he'll deal normally. But if you leave him for seconds, he'll go back to sleep again. Some said they were acting, but study, research, and examinations proved otherwise. Some people have repeated this issue more than once. Some have complained about nightmares he sees, like two kids who woke up terrified and said they saw snakes and worms in their bed. They ate in their hands as they slept. Checks were done for everyone who was infected with this curse. Water, air, and soil were examined for this village to understand what was happening, but all the results were negative.